For over 6 centuries, one city challenged Rome's dream of ruling the Mediterranean. What began as a modest Phoenician settlement on the North African coast evolved into a powerful maritime empire, sending merchants beyond the Pillars of Hercules while its formidable navy dominated the seas. Its most legendary commander marched an army, including war elephants, across the Alps, bringing Rome to the brink of defeat. But despite its extraordinary rise, that civilization ultimately vanished so completely that, for centuries, many believed nothing remained except the memory of fire and ruin. Few ancient rivals shaped world history more than Carthage. Rome celebrated its own triumph as the beginning of an empire, but that victory required the destruction of an opponent whose wealth, technology, and naval power had once seemed almost unstoppable. The rise of Rome cannot be understood without first understanding the civilization it feared the most. But how did a city founded by refugees become the richest power in the Western Mediterranean, only to vanish almost entirely from the political map? The story begins on the coast of modern Tunisia, where Phoenician settlers from the ancient city of Tyre established a new colony around the late 9th century BC. According to tradition, the city was founded by Queen Dido, who fled political violence in her homeland. Whether Dido was a historical figure remains uncertain, but the legend reflected an important truth. Carthage was born from survival, trade, and ambition. Its location proved nearly perfect. Protected harbors opened toward the Mediterranean while fertile farmland stretched into the interior. Ships traveling between the eastern and western Mediterranean naturally passed nearby, allowing Carthage to become a commercial crossroads. Wealth arrived not through conquest at first, but through merchants carrying metals, timber, wine, textiles, ivory, and luxury goods across thousands of miles. Unlike many neighboring kingdoms, Carthage developed as a maritime republic dominated by influential merchant families. Political power rested in councils, elected magistrates known as suffetes, and powerful aristocratic clans. Decisions often reflected commercial interests rather than personal monarchy. Stability allowed the city to invest enormous resources into ports, fleets, and overseas colonies. Yet prosperity brought competition. As Carthage expanded across North Africa, Sardinia, Corsica, western Sicily, and parts of southern Spain, another ambitious republic slowly emerged on the Italian peninsula. For centuries, Rome focused on defeating neighboring Italian rivals while Carthage controlled the sea. Eventually, their spheres of influence collided in Sicily. Neither side could easily retreat without surrendering its future. The result would become one of history's longest and most destructive rivalries. The First Punic War began over Sicily, but it quickly transformed into something neither side had expected. Rome had little naval experience compared to Carthage, whose sailors had inherited centuries of Phoenician seafaring tradition. On paper, the conflict should have ended quickly in Carthaginian favor. Instead, Rome adapted with astonishing speed. After reportedly capturing a Carthaginian vessel, Roman engineers copied its design and built an entirely new fleet. Even more surprising, they introduced the corvus, a boarding bridge that allowed Roman soldiers to fight naval battles as if they were land engagements. Rather than mastering superior seamanship overnight, Rome simply changed the rules of combat. The strategy worked often enough to keep Rome in the fight, although storms repeatedly destroyed entire Roman fleets. Both republics spent decades exhausting their manpower and finances. Victory came only after years of extraordinary persistence, leaving Carthage defeated and forced to surrender Sicily along with heavy financial payments. Many civilizations would have accepted decline after such losses. Carthage chose recovery. Unable to expand easily across the sea, Carthaginian leaders looked toward Iberia. Southern Spain offered rich silver mines, fertile land, and fresh military opportunities. Under Hamilcar Barca and later his son-in-law Hasdrubal, Carthage rebuilt its wealth while establishing a powerful new base centered on the city of New Carthage. Then came Hamilcar's son. Hannibal Barca grew up surrounded by stories of defeat and determination. Ancient historians later claimed that as a boy he swore eternal hostility toward Rome. Whether that famous oath actually occurred remains debated, but his later actions made the legend believable. When Hannibal attacked the city of Saguntum, Rome declared war once again. Few expected what followed. Rather than confronting Roman fleets directly, Hannibal chose one of history's boldest military gambles. He marched tens of thousands of soldiers, cavalry, and war elephants from Spain across southern Gaul and over the Alps. The journey cost enormous losses through harsh weather, hostile tribes, and dangerous mountain passes, yet enough survived. Rome suddenly faced an invading army deep inside Italy itself. Over the following years, Hannibal delivered one devastating victory after another. At the Trebia River, Lake Trasimene, and especially Cannae, Roman armies suffered catastrophic defeats. At Cannae, Hannibal executed one of history's most celebrated double envelopment tactics, surrounding a much larger Roman force and destroying it almost completely. For many observers, Rome appeared finished. Yet Rome possessed one advantage that Hannibal could never fully overcome. Its political system and network of allied Italian communities proved remarkably resilient. Even after staggering losses, Rome continued raising new armies. Instead of negotiating peace, Roman leaders accepted unimaginable casualties while refusing surrender. The Republic could replace defeated legions faster than Hannibal could replace his experienced veterans. Meanwhile, events far from Italy quietly shifted the balance. Roman commander Publius Cornelius Scipio carried the war into Spain, cutting off Carthaginian resources and defeating Hannibal's relatives. Later, Scipio invaded North Africa itself, forcing Carthage to recall Hannibal after more than 15 years campaigning in Italy. Their final meeting came at Zama. There, Hannibal faced an opponent who had carefully studied his own methods. Scipio neutralized the elephant charge, maintained disciplined formations, and used superior Numidian cavalry to attack Hannibal's rear. Carthage lost not only the battle but also its position as the dominant military power in the western Mediterranean. Many assumed that would end the rivalry. Instead, something unexpected happened. Although stripped of its empire, Carthage recovered economically with surprising speed. Agriculture flourished, trade revived, and merchants once again accumulated impressive wealth. Roman observers grew increasingly alarmed that their defeated rival remained prosperous despite severe restrictions. One Roman senator became especially obsessed. Cato the Elder reportedly ended many speeches with the same phrase: "Carthage must be destroyed." Whether discussing roads, taxes, or unrelated legislation, he insisted that Rome could never be secure while Carthage still existed. His warnings reflected growing Roman anxiety rather than immediate military necessity. Eventually, political pressure overcame restraint. The Third Punic War began after Carthage violated treaty restrictions while defending itself against repeated Numidian attacks. Rome treated this as justification for intervention, but its demands soon became impossible. The Romans eventually ordered the entire population to abandon the city permanently. The Carthaginians refused. What followed was one of antiquity's most desperate urban defenses. Citizens forged weapons day and night. Women reportedly cut their own hair to produce rope for siege engines. Every district became a battlefield as Roman forces slowly fought through massive fortifications. The siege lasted nearly 3 years. When Roman commander Scipio Aemilianus finally breached the defenses in 146 BC, fighting continued street by street and house by house. Ancient accounts describe buildings burning while defenders resisted from rooftops. Tens of thousands died. Survivors were sold into slavery. The once great metropolis became a shattered ruin. Later stories claimed the Romans sowed the ground with salt to ensure nothing would ever grow again. Modern historians almost universally reject this dramatic tale. No ancient source written near the event mentions such an act. The legend appeared centuries later, becoming one of history's most enduring myths. That was not the only misconception. For generations, much of what the world knew about Carthage came through Roman authors, whose perspectives naturally reflected the victors. Historians such as Polybius provide invaluable information, yet many Carthaginian records disappeared during the city's destruction. As a result, Reconstructing Carthaginian history requires balancing Roman accounts with archaeological discoveries. Those discoveries have transformed our understanding. Excavations in modern Tunis have revealed sophisticated residential districts, advanced drainage systems, industrial workshops, and the remarkable circular military harbor known as the Kathon. This engineering masterpiece allowed warships to be launched efficiently while remaining protected behind fortified defenses. Far from being merely Rome's enemy, Carthage was one of the ancient world's greatest urban centers. Another subject remains fiercely debated. The Tophet of Carthage contains thousands of urns holding cremated remains of infants and young children. Ancient Greek and Roman writers accused Carthaginians of practicing child sacrifice to the gods Baal, Hammon, and Tanit. Some modern archaeologists believe at least some ritual sacrifice occurred, supported by inscriptions and burial evidence. Others argue that many of these burials may represent children who died naturally during periods of high infant mortality. The debate continues because the archaeological evidence allows multiple interpretations. Whatever the answer, historians increasingly approach the question with caution, rather than relying solely on hostile ancient sources. Even Hannibal himself remains surrounded by myths. Popular images often show massive African elephants crossing snowy mountain passes. In reality, Hannibal's surviving elephants were probably the smaller North African forest elephant, a species that is now extinct. Their psychological impact may have been even more important than their battlefield effectiveness. Perhaps the greatest surprise is that Carthage did not disappear forever. Less than a century after destroying the city, Rome recognized the strategic value of its location. Julius Caesar planned a new colony there, and under Augustus, Roman Carthage became one of the empire's largest and wealthiest cities. Although the Punic civilization had ended, the site itself returned to prominence, proving that geography often outlives politics. The fall of Carthage marked far more than the destruction of a single city. It removed the last great challenger capable of preventing Roman dominance across the western Mediterranean. With no comparable rival remaining, Rome expanded into an empire that would shape Europe, North Africa, and the Near East for centuries. Yet Carthage's legacy survives in unexpected ways. Its merchants connected distant worlds through trade. Its engineers built remarkable harbors. Its generals transformed military strategy, with Hannibal's campaigns still studied by commanders more than 2,000 years later. Even Rome's greatest achievements were forged in response to the challenge Carthage presented. History often remembers the victors, but sometimes understanding the defeated reveals an even greater story. Carthage rose from a refugee colony to a global trading empire, challenged the mightiest republic of its age, and fell only after forcing Rome to become stronger than it had ever imagined possible. In destroying Carthage, Rome secured its future, but it also ensured that its greatest rival would never be forgotten.